Next on stage, I would like to invite Puneet Kumar from Nexus Venture Partners. Puneet, please take stage, and Puneet will dive deeper into, the investor perspective.
This is forward.
Awesome. Yeah, over to you, Puneet.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's great to see the hall full, and I know that I'm the last speaker before the lunch break, so I'll try to be brief and try to make sure that we cover this topic as concisely as possible. I think in the last presentation, Ravi did an excellent job of talking about some of the tactics you can use to grow your business, how to get the first 10 customers, how to think about the journey. This presentation, honestly, is taking a step back. It's actually at a much more philosophical level and something which everybody has to think about in their journey. And the intent of the presentation is, if I can drive home one point, that how to recognize and how to realize and how to move towards product market fit, that would be, I think, winning for this. I think just wanted to start with one thing, 80%. Can anyone guess what this number represent? Any guesses from anyone? Sorry? Exactly. I think absolutely 80% startups fail and die before they get to product market fit. And that's a fact which has been used in many presentations. It's actually, I would say, it's probably more than 80%. Because once you have product market fit, the journey looks so different. And in fact, people talk about repeat entrepreneurs. There is, in fact, a study being done that repeat entrepreneurs who found product market fit in the first time have much higher success of succeeding next time. If they didn't find product market fit, the experience is actually very, very different, and this is a very interesting stat. I think so just to start with, I think, and I had a good chance of and being fortunate to actually take the course on product market fit by Andy Rachleff, who coined the term. And what he says there is this is the single biggest reason why products fail, why companies fail, is they have not identified a problem which is worth solving, which people are willing to pay for, which people are really looking forward to. And we're going to just focus on this one topic and for the next 12 minutes. I think so the agenda, I'm going to just skip through it. What's product market fit? What are the key stages in this journey? And how do you know if you have achieved it or not? And what mistakes people make and how can you avoid them? I think so what is product market fit? Product market fit, I think people think of product and market as two separate things, and a lot of the times, when I was an entrepreneur, I thought about product first. I thought about, okay, I'm going to build this product, and it's going to solve this need. But in this journey, I think time and again, markets are right. Products can be wrong, products can be right, but market is always right. So you need to be first and foremost thinking about what market you're going to be playing in. If the market is bad, however good your product is, it's not going to work. And you can see actually same idea being executed 15 years ago, then 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and then today. And 3 times it failed, exact same journey, and 4th time it's working. It's because markets are very, very powerful. And if you're basically like, if you're surfing, and if you're surfing against the wave, you just can't surf. And that's, I think, the reality. And there comes the product. So first you need to think about what market you are in. Then you think about what product you're going to build. And there should be an intersection, and that's basically the fit. But I can't emphasize more. I think a lot of people, like I was talking to a startup 2 days ago, and brilliant team, really sharp, 4 computer science guys from top-tier colleges working on a product. And we talked, and they've been working on it for 9 months now, and they're like, hey, now we want to go to US. And I'm like, hey, but have you thought about this market? This market is just so oversaturated. Even the market leader in the space is not growing and is struggling. Like, what are you thinking? And how would you, like a new entrant will justify? Versus some markets have tailwind. I call fast follow SaaS. I'm a big believer, actually, of fast follow SaaS, that if the market leader is growing above 50, 60, 70% in the global markets, even if you just followed that market, there is enough tailwind for you to get to a couple of $1 million in ARR very quickly. And I think so you need to think about what is the tailwind? Is it in your favor? Is it against you? And I think this is, just wanted to quote one thing. If a great team meets lousy market, market wins. If a lousy team meets great market, market wins. The combination is what is very powerful, but markets are just very important. And I think how I think about it is markets are like pieces of puzzle. If you have seen a jigsaw puzzle, there can be puzzles which have large segments, and there are puzzles which are small segments. What is happening is almost every market, with the competition, with the things as the markets are growing, each space is becoming smaller, and you need to be really tightly integrated into other things to make sure that you have a space in it. Like no products, I think, if you are B2B entrepreneurs, no products are working independently. Every product has to basically integrate and carve out their niche in the overall puzzle, which is the market. And what is the 3 phases of the journey? And it's a little funny. I think I always say, like, why my presentation, I have a picture of a cockroach. And I think this is the first stage of the journey. Can anyone guess what is the single biggest property of cockroach? They survive. And I think until a startup has found product market fit, you are only focused on survival. You should not hire too many people. You should basically be willing to work with the minimal resources to make sure that you get to product market fit. And this journey, and I actually take an example, although the entrepreneur is not here and we haven't funded them, but Neeraj from Hiver. Excellent, exceptional example. The journey, he raised maybe first amount of money almost 5-6 years ago. And he has been iterating on so many different things with a really small team and, like initial few hundred K he raised for last 4.5, 5 years. But he's a survivor. He survived that journey, and finally last year, he launched product Hiver IQ. It's a very beautiful product. Everybody should take inspiration from it, where he has found product market fit. So first 5 years, maybe he got to 100K in ARR, and next 10 months, he's now at $1 million in ARR. And that's what happens, I think, so it's the survival which is so important, and I think people sort of, don't think about it this way, because agility, cockroaches are the best example of survival. The next journey is when the magic happens, I think, and that's product market fit. It's one of those magical moments, and it's like, like what the people say about having a baby. Like you can think about, how does having a baby feels like, although I've not had a baby, but, and people can think about how it's going to be crazy after that, it's going to be different. But until you have it, it is that moment which is so magical for you that life changes completely afterwards. What you thought about it, how it's going to go, everything just changes in that moment. And that, I think, is product market fit, and we'll go deeper in how it looks like, how would you identify when it happens. And the third phase is, once it has happened, like once baby is out, life is crazy. Like people think they are jet lagged all the time, because there's just constant. It's a 24/7, something or other is going wrong. Maybe as a cold, maybe something or other. And that's, I think, what happens after product market fit. It's like having a baby just came out, and now you're like, fuck, what to do? And so these are the 3 distinct journey parts. I think a lot of people get mistaken about when that magical moment has happened. I think a lot of people during the pregnancy start to think that they have already had the baby, and this is the most painful thing that can happen. But it's not until it has happened. I think, so how do you know what product market fit has achieved or not? I think the biggest example of this, and I'm going to take like a real life example, and I'm going to try to keep it light on the lighter note, is, like relationships. When you are chasing somebody, in your heart of your heart, you know that, hey, the person is okay, interested, is not completely interested in you, but you are chasing, so the person is giving you time, the person is talking to you. But when you know that it's both two-sided, it's just very different. And most of the time, we are all very smart, and we say, oh, the person is busy right now, hence the person doesn't have time for me. But when the true sort of bi-sided relationship happens, then you automatically know. But you can keep on fooling yourself in that you have a relationship until you have it. And I think that's, what product market fit cannot be really defined by sort of any metrics. It's something which is almost that before product market fit, you are pushing. You are always pushing for time. You are always pushing for demo. You are always pushing for things. Your customer is, somewhat interested. He's happy to meet you, but he's not moving forward. Versus when you have product market fit, it's basically like wakeboarding. That somebody is just pulling you, and there is a steamer in front of you, and the car is just getting pulled like anything. And you are not in control anymore. Like your customer is asking for demos, he's getting 5 other people involved, you have too many people to talk to, and you are just like all over the map. And that's when you have to prioritize and take a step back and see, hey, what can you do, how to say no to things. But the moment is just very different. And I think, and I kid you not, so many people mistake that when they are doing pushing, but they think that they have a pull. And that's the biggest fallacy, I think, in product market fit. A lot of us are smart to sort of just justify things to ourselves. And I think the other big good reason, good thing to think about is if your company died today, would your customers really care? Like, would they be going, would their operations go completely haywire? What would happen if it happens? So yeah, I think these are some of the metrics, but I'm not going to go in it. You can read on internet, honestly. But the point is that moment is just so important that you just need to recognize it and make sure that don't just like think about it before it has happened. And I think the good example which happens, and this is, I'm going to use one line here, product market fit has happened when an average sales guy can sell to an average customer. An exceptional sales guy can sell something to my mom as well when she doesn't need it. Like somebody might sell a CRM to my mom when she doesn't need it. But like exceptional sales guys are like that they're very convincing. And a lot of the founders and CEOs are very convincing. But the true test happens when an okay sales guy, when you hire your sales guy, is he able to sell? And is he able to sell not to the first top 3 customers, but to the 10th customer, 20th customer, 30th customer? So yeah, this I think is the same thing, that if your product stops working, how many calls do you get? That's a great indicator of, are people really excited about it? Or are people just like, okay, since you sold it to me, I'm going to just use it. It's nice to have, but it's not must have. I think, and what are the common mistakes? And I've already talked about the first one, which I think is people think they have product market fit before they have. And this is classic example. Hey, you know, Puneet, and we meet a lot of entrepreneurs. That's the job. I talk to 50 people, and you know, 5 of them have showed interest to me, and I think this is the product I should be building because there's a product market fit. And honestly, more often than not, those 5 people were just being nice to you, and that's not an indication of product market fit by any means. The second one is not killing bad ideas fast enough. A lot of times, same goes back to the relationship. When you know somebody is not interested, it is not working, I think we just are not ruthless generally, and we don't cut the cord fast enough. We're like, you should be willing to say in your teams, in your co-founding teams, that, hey, this is not working, let's move on to the next one. Because otherwise, we're wasting our time and resources and just getting tired for no reason. And I think this is another thing which I think is like most of the people fail to do it fast enough. Understanding the time to product market fit. It takes like a lot of time to get to product market fit, especially if you're building for enterprises. Yeah, they might give you POCs, they might talk to you, be nice. Until the money starts flowing in, that's not real. And I think people think that, hey, I'm going to have product market fit in 3 months. No, it might take 1 year, it might take 3 years, it might never happen. The important part is, to me, and that's why they say 0 to 1 million is the impossible task in the SaaS journey. And that journey, I would say first 500K, first million might take 3 years. But once you have hit the first million, to me, that's when the clock starts. That's when you should be on a growth trajectory. From 1 to 3, 3 to 9, 9 to whatever, 30. That's when the timing really starts to matter from an investor point of view also. The first 100K, first 1 million, how do you get, how long does it take, is actually not relevant. It's the journey after is truly relevant from a growth standpoint. I think treating product market fit as a discrete event, it's not an event, it is a journey which happens. I think assuming one product, once it has happened, it can't go away, pretty straightforward. And building for one market, thinking about another market. That's another, I would say, classic problem we see in India. Hey, I have gotten Flipkart as customer, I'm building for them, now I have Myntra also asking for it and Paytm, and I'm going to go build for these 3-4 guys. It's going to take me 6 months, 9 months, they're going to pay me money as well. And then one day you're like, hey, but India market is small enough, let me go outside. And you land in US and the market is different. If you want to build for US market, you need to be talking to US customers from day one. Do not fool yourself in that, hey, people are buying my product in India, so people in US will also buy, because the context is just very different. And I think you need to make sure this is one of the biggest things we see in SaaS companies that a lot of the times they're like, hey, first 2 years they just spend in Indian market. There are a lot of examples, a lot of, in fact, marquee examples who are speakers here as well, who spent first 2 years here, then went to the Valley, and then they're like, oh shit, I need to rebuild everything, I need to revamp everything, and it takes another year. And it just like delays your journey by that much time. I think defining the product too widely. That's another thing. I remember Pando, one of our portfolio company, like great entrepreneurs working on logistics SaaS. And earlier the product is just too wide and you're just trying to build too many things. In the early days, you need to focus on few things, find 1 or 2 key pain points, solve them really well for them, rather than trying to build 20 different things. Because it just takes time to build things and you don't have time, you want to be moving fast. And hiring aggressively without product market fit. I think that's like happens so many times. You think you have product market fit, you hire people, then you fire people, then it's just like you can avoid it if you are being honest with yourself. I think how can one streamline this process? I would say that first one is talk to your customers. And not just talk to your any customers, talk to the target customers. If you are targeting a 500 employee SMB in US, talk to them. Talking to Myntra, or Flipkart, which has 10,000 employees in India, is completely different and completely irrelevant. Their problems might be very different. So you need to go out, talk to people. A lot of people say, hey, how do I talk to people? Hey, you know what? Like, I don't have any connects in US. Honestly, that's what job of a CEO, a salesperson is, to find connects. And if you are diligent about it, you can always find connects. There are enough people, if they see you are diligent, people are willing to help you. People are willing to put you in touch with other people whom you can talk to. But you need to define exactly, your ask needs to be very clear. If you say, hey, Puneet, I want to talk to these 5 companies, there's much higher chance if I know any of them, I can connect you. But if you say, hey, I want to talk to some companies, then it's like, okay, I also don't know what companies you want to talk to, and I'm going, okay, whatever, like there are 100 other things to do in life. So your ask needs to be very clear. You need to be talking to people who are relevant to you. Create hypothesis. Your hypothesis should be very sharp, and hypothesis-driven testing means if I ran a test, the answer should be yes or no. It should not be not enough data after every test. Because an experiment is only worthwhile if at the end of the experiment you can conclude whether it was successful or whether it was not successful. Most of the times, I think founders are like, oh shit, I didn't have that feature, so let me build that and I'll rerun the hypothesis. And I think just don't get into the loop where every time you build a hypothesis, go for the testing, come back and say, oh, not enough data, let me build more, and then I'll test it again. Have a very pointed hypothesis. That should be written literally in the early stage companies on every founder's screen that this is the hypothesis we are testing. If we validate it, great. Otherwise, let's move on to the next one. There are 10 other things. You might have started somewhere, but you might go completely in a different direction. The third one is defining the problem sharply. This is like, if you have 10 features, think about what is the one thing which people really want and go test that. Because 10 things is very hodgepodge. Somebody might say, yeah, I like this, give me this. I like this, give me this. But it's like if you have just only one shirt, which is white shirt, and if you say that, hey, I have the best fabric in the world, and this shirt should sell, irrespective of the colors, you don't need any other colors. Just one color is enough. Go just sell that shirt. And I think that's what matters in the journey before you have achieved the fit. Build an MVP, pretty straightforward. Iterate fast enough. Hone into early adopters. Have few customers who are really willing to work with you and basically build a product with your customers. Don't try to build a product in isolation for yourself. But keep thinking about scalability. Don't get into services plus mode, that you think you are building product where your customer thinks you are doing services. That's another thing which a lot of Indian companies get into, that they are thinking they are a product company, their customers think they are a services company. Have that alignment very clear in your head. And prove value before you grow. Your customers should be excited about it. They should be willing to talk to people. They should be referring you to other people. And that's when you know that they are really getting value. If you just ask them, yeah, are you happy? Yeah, they might say, okay, I'm happy. But that's just like, I think, not enough. Like, true testament of happiness is when they are going out and saying that, hey, you are going to NASSCOM conference, I'll come with you, let's do a panel together. that is when you know that, hey, the customer is really vested in your success. He's really getting some value which he sees in you. I think moving fast and don't hesitate in killing the idea. Like, this is the most important thing. If you said, I am going to do a DevOps company, you don't need to be always a DevOps company. Like, first 3 months you iterated, doesn't work, you can move on to something else. And people appreciate it. Like, and there are brilliant examples of, like, there's a company, segment.io. I don't know if how many of you know about it, but they do almost like 100 million in ARR now. They started with a tool for teachers and professors to get sentiment in their classrooms. And in their iteration process, they went on to something completely different, and their investors were okay. And at some point, they almost went back to their investors and said, hey, you know what? We are not doing the idea which we started with. Do you want to get your money back? And most of the investors said, hey, we don't want the money back. Why don't you continue iterating, figure out what you would like to do? And I think people are willing to wait. People are willing to invest behind you as long as you understand what you're doing and you're diligent about it. So I think that's all from my side. Hope this had somewhat product market fit. And I think thank you very much for being a great audience. Yeah, sure. Couple of questions.
When there is hype creating hype, basically in B2B, the end user is not getting the value that they need, that the company promises, the startup promises, but there is so much hype created by that technology that the business they're selling to, they're compelled to buy it. Do you think that's a correct product market fit? Because businesses are buying, but the real value is not being created.
No, I would say that is not product market fit, because then that will automatically lead to churn. Unless you can say that, hey, this is my way to get in, they might not see value today, but once I'm down, like 3 months down, they will start to see value. Unless they are really using the product for a problem, the product is going to churn. I think products become irrelevant in the companies. People are buying so many products, and so many products become obsolete. So I would say that, yeah, if somebody is like, oh, there is so much pressure to buy AI, let me go buy something in AI, and they buy something, that's not going to work. That is not like churn. We didn't talk about it, but that's probably the most important metric for any SaaS company, is whether your customers are staying with you, or are they just, do you have a leaky bucket, you bring them in, and they just go. So I would say your product needs to deliver true value. People can use different strategies to get into this door. A lot of the times you might get into the door, like Postman. Great example is that Postman started with just an API testing tool. And nobody was paying them for it, but they just got foot in the door with 5 million developers. And now they are really thinking about what they can do with it. How can they expand? But they didn't have any monetization model until they got to like almost 25% of the world developer population was using them every day. But at least they were so top of the mind that any person, any engineer you talk to, or you look at their screen, you always see the Postman icon in their tray. So you know that, okay, people are getting a lot of value out of it. Now, how do I extract value? That's a different question. But I would always focus on delivering value to the customers than hypes. Yeah. One.
Yeah, how important is product consistency? So for instance, you've built a product, you got your first few customers who are using it, they love you, they pay you. And then the next few, there's a lot of customization that needs to be done. Now, would you say, that's still not achieved product market fit, because there is demand, but then there's a lot of customization also that's happening. So how do you balance customized?
Sure, absolutely. Great question. I think so. Customization and product roadmap are two things which are tied. Let's say I built a cell phone, and now my customer says, hey, you know what? Since you are giving me the device, why don't you give me a mail client as well? Because it'll be easier for me and I don't need to install anything. Now to me, that's not a customization. Like, it's something which I didn't build, but if I build it, it's going to be relevant for all my customers. So you have to always think that, hey, are you building something so specific that's going to be relevant only to this one customer? Or what he or she is asking is relevant enough that, hey, I might build for one company, but it's valid for other companies and I'll be able to sell it across. So I think that's the lens you have to always keep between that what is your product roadmap and what is a complete deviation, and you're doing a complete customization for somebody. So that is the fine balance you have to always think about. If somebody asks you that, hey, I want this, you should go and talk to 5 of your other customers and say, hey, you know what? If I build this, do you also want it? And then you would know that, hey, should it be in your product roadmap, or are you just doing it just to get that one customer. And that's how I would think about it.
Quick question. I'm coming more from the consumer product perspective. How important is it when you make an investment decision that that the creators of the product have thought about retention and not just acquisition, in the sense that how sticky and how much of thought has gone into making the product such that people keep coming back to it
I think
as a
yeah.
habit.
So I think that's super important. If you're doing truly consumer startup, that's, I would say, even more important. Like equally important, if not more, because in consumers, like if they're not coming back to you, you're just acquiring people and they're just leaving. Only startups where it can work probably is travel. Make My Trip almost is okay, because as long as you are profitable in the first interaction with the customer, he comes, books a ticket, and I make money out of that transaction, that's fine. But if you're building whatever, next generation Facebook or share chat or anything, engagement is the single most important metric. That are people coming to you every day, are people coming to you every hour? Because if your app is not on top of their mind, and consumer especially, in B2B, you still have some slack, okay, 3 months you were doing something and the product was not much valuable, you can go and revamp it and say, oh, you know what, now start using it, and they might start using it again. In consumer, if I haven't used the app for 10 days, it's out of my mind. And I think there are so many new apps coming every day that in consumer, it's even more important. I think we're out of time. You want to take the last?
Last question.
Yeah.
It's an extension of the question. My name is Prashant. So I would like to just ask if a paying customer is an important part or a step of validation of PMF.
Yes and no. Like I gave the example of Postman. I think they were a free product for developers. 5 million people were using them. So they had one product market fit. And that's where I think product market fit is not a distinct event for full company life cycle. They had product market fit for their API testing tool, but that doesn't make any money. So now they have to think about what other products can I build to get product market fit where I can start making money. So, but you can absolutely have a product which, if the world everybody uses in the world and you don't charge them a single penny, that's a great product market fit for that product. But as a company, you might need to take a step back and say, hey, you know what? I have a lot of these customers. How do I get more value out of them? And how do I think about my next product? And how do I get the next product to product market fit? If everybody is using it, like if you were to come and say, hey, you know what? I have built a product which all the Fortune 500 companies are using it. You have product market fit, even if they're not paying you anything for it for now. But now you need to think about what is going to be the next product which can make money for you and will achieve product market fit. So that's how I would think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet, for all the inputs and giving us the investor perspective. I think it was really amazing. And a small token of our appreciation for you making the time.
Yep, thank you.
And for all the support.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.